headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador. I am Estefania Bravo. This is From the South. Today we begin in Venezuela, where the Attorney General is asking for a criminal investigation to be launched into the conduct of opposition head Juan Guaidó. AG Tarek William Saab made the announcement a short while ago, saying Guaidó had put the country at risk by proclaiming himself as interim president. The AG is also proposing that Guaidó is barred from leaving the country and from selling his assets once a probe gets underway. Saab is also requesting that Guaidó's bank accounts are frozen as an interim precautionary measure. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has strongly rejected the United States sanction on state-owned oil company PDVSA, calling it illegal, and he described the Citgo company takeover as a robbery.
John Bolton has announced the imposition of a series of measures of so-called sanctions, which are unilateral, illegal, and are against the UN Security Council. They are unilateral, illegal, immoral, and criminal. With these measures, they are trying to steal the Citgo company away from us, a company of all Venezuelans. Be alert, Venezuela. The United States has decided to take the path of robbery of the Citgo company from Venezuela. This is an illegal path. I have given the necessary instructions to the owner of the Citgo company to start the political and legal procedures before the U.S. and international courts to defend the property and wealth of Citgo.
And the Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza says the United States has proven that it only wants to get its hands on Venezuela's oil. And that's what fueled the U.S.'s support for the attempted coup. U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton, in a recent interview on a U.S. media outlet, has said that the U.S. is currently in conversation with major U.S. companies, both in Venezuela and in the U.S. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has also weighed in on the U.S.'s sanctions targeting Venezuela's oil industry. He says Russia will take all necessary steps to support the Nicolas Maduro-led government.
What the United States and their closest allies are doing with regards to Venezuela is, of course, very worrying, crudely violating all norms of international law, and essentially taking a direct course at ousting legal authority in this Latin American nation. Additional information came in today about sanctions applied against Venezuelan oil company, PDVSA, against its North American branch, Citgo. Meanwhile, underlining the cynicism of what is happening, American companies working in Venezuela are exempt from the sanctions, so they want to change the regime and also make a profit from it.
A day after PDVSA was hit with sanctions, the U.S. State Department has given opposition leader Juan Guaidó control over some assets of the Venezuelan government. The certification applies to certain property held in accounts by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York or any other U.S.-insured accounts. The President of the United Nations General Assembly, Maria Fernanda Espinosa, is calling for urgent political dialogue in Venezuela.
The PJ has been closely following the latest political developments in Venezuela with great concern. Her solidarity is with the people of Venezuela. Ms. Maria Fernanda Espinosa calls upon all relevant parties to find political solutions to the situation to avoid the escalation of tensions and violence and further deaths. The President also calls for urgent political dialogue focused on the need for peace and stability. Ms. Espinosa says that the international community must contribute to a peaceful atmosphere. She acknowledges the mediation offers by different countries to encourage meaningful national dialogue involving all relevant stakeholders in Venezuela as the most effective way to restore the calm, as well as the cooperation needed for the country to work for its people. A peaceful solution in a manner that is consistent with Venezuela's constitution and international law is the only way to ensure the well-being of all Venezuelans.
Leaders of the Caribbean community, CARICOM, have met at the United Nations to discuss the ongoing political situation in Venezuela. The Prime Ministers of St. Kitts and Nevis, Trinidad and Tobago, and Barbados held talks with the UN Secretary General. Coming out of that meeting, the delegation said that if the conditions can be met, the UN will assist in establishing the roadmap towards peace and security for Venezuela and the region.
We are very satisfied that in the coming days we could work towards that dialogue so that the internal difficulties in Venezuela can be approached without intervention and without interference from those who may have a different approach, and hopefully in the not too distant future we can see significant improvements and the lessening of the tensions. So the meeting was very useful, and we will continue to work towards peace and security in the region.
In the UK, a protest was held outside Downing Street, Theresa May's residence, denouncing the government's support for the ongoing attempted coup in Venezuela. The protesters displayed Venezuelan flags and placards in support of the Bolivarian Revolution. Demonstrators said it's important to highlight the outrageous policy of the UK government, which recognized the head of Venezuela's National Assembly as interim president.
The UK has no business in interfering into the internal affairs of the Venezuelan people. And secondly, most importantly, the UK government is withholding 14 tons of gold, 1.2 billion US dollars worth of Venezuelan gold, which is in the vaults of the Bank of England, and is refusing to hand this money over to the Venezuelan government, which is its rightful owner. If they are so worried about the economic suffering of the Venezuelan people and the humanitarian situation that the Venezuelan people are facing, they should immediately hand back this money, which can surely be used to alleviate the situation. We are here to protest against the imperialist intervention of the UK and the US in the Venezuelan affairs.
What we're being told about Venezuela when you watch the news, when you watch the BBC, Channel 4, is a pack of lies. Venezuela is being sanctioned to death by the USA, by the EU, by Canada, and now they have arbitrarily decided that this one person that no one's ever heard of before, that was not elected, is going to be the president of Venezuela, when the truth is there was already elections last year and the people chose Nicolas Maduro.
5 people have been arrested in Brazil over the mining dam collapse that killed 65 people. According to prosecutors, 3 employees of the Brazilian mining company Vale and 2 engineers working for the company are among the arrested. On social media, Vale said it is cooperating with the investigation. Hundreds remain missing after the dam collapsed. And on Monday, people gathered outside of the offices of Brazilian mining company Vale to protest the death of at least 65 people in a dam collapse. Angered victims' families, activists, and politicians threw liquid representing toxic waters left by the company towards their office. They also held signs reading, "It was not an accident, it was a crime." 300 people remain missing, and authorities say it is unlikely any of them will be found alive.
It's necessary to take a stance against this destruction of the environment, of human lives, and of the recognition of human rights.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
Acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel held a meeting with the Council of Ministers late Monday to evaluate the recovery efforts following a devastating tornado that hit Havana and surrounding areas. Díaz-Canel stressed the importance of learning from experiences of these weather events in order to improve disaster prevention. 4 people died as a result of Sunday's tornado, and a total of 195 more were injured.
The experience was horrible. Once you watch the tornado from far away, lived in the trees, it's very painful to see from a distance, but to live it is frightening.
When I got to my house was closed off, and I saw the TV on the floor, along with a pile of furniture. The refrigerator was in the patio with all the food and everything outside. Even power lines were hanging down nearby. It's the most destruction that I ever seen in my life.
And Cuba marked the 166th anniversary of the birth of national hero José Martí, one day later due to the tornado. In an event led by former President Raúl Castro and President Miguel Díaz-Canel, they also showed solidarity to the Bolivarian Revolution. The tradition of the Torchlight March was started 66 years ago by revolutionary leader Fidel Castro. He was protesting against Fulgencio Batista's dictatorship that was backed by the U.S.
We feel admiration towards Martí and remember him a lot, wishing to be like him and follow his ideas.
It's an honor to participate in this march to commemorate the anniversary of the birth of our national hero.
Thanks to José Martí, we have this reality today. It's also the youth organization. It's everything.
El Salvador is electing its new president on Sunday as candidates close their campaigns during the weekend. Nayib Bukele from the Ghana Party is heading all the polls.
Thousands of supporters of the FMLN party gathered in one of the main avenues of capital San Salvador to show their support for the presidential candidacy of Hugo Martínez and Karina Sosa.
I think that in 10 years they have done more for the country than the Arena Party in 20. I believe they are the ones that are going to help our country.
At the rally, Martínez highlighted the social measures in his government program aimed at helping the poorest sector of the nation. He asked voters to choose the FMLN for a third term in office.
Justice means that all of our children can attend to school with their school supplies. That's what makes other candidates mad. Instead of offering justice, they are just offering fairy tales.
Candidate Nayib Bukele from the Ghana Party closed his presidential campaign in the historic center. He has promised his supporters he will end with same policies affecting the country.
We are tired of the same policies. It is always the same. He is the one who is going to make a difference.
Bukele is heading the polls. The candidate says he will win the election in the first round.
On the 3rd of February, we will leave the post-war period behind. That day, we are leaving behind the ones who do not want to move on, the ones who live in the past, the ones who are rich because we are poor. That day, they will hear the Salvadorians saying, "No more."
The right-wing party Arena canceled its traditional closing campaign at the Cuscatlán Stadium, but held a caravan called Success Tour. The presidential election will be held this Sunday, February 3rd.
An Ecuadorian court has dismissed the case that investigated the kidnapping of former President Rafael Correa in an attempted coup in 2010. In the case, 7 policemen were accused of kidnapping Correa. The court argued there were no proofs of physical or psychological aggressions. The policemen were accused of simple kidnapping, a crime that prescribes after 5 years in Ecuadorian law. On September 30th, 2010, a group of policemen kidnapped Correa, alleging a police revolt. And also in Ecuador, President Lenín Moreno has intensified security measures against Venezuelans despite recent protests against xenophobia. Our correspondent in Quito, Denise Herrera, explains.
René left Venezuela last year to go to Colombia, where he faced xenophobia. After facing several incidents of xenophobia, he decided to move to Ecuador, along with a group of 12 people in a hub to find new opportunity. However, xenophobia found him again in Ecuador.
With all that happened, everything changed. There's no one here. 4 buses left to the frontier with Rumichaca. Everybody left because of xenophobia. Many people suffered attacks. Their clothes were burned. They were left with nothing.
Recently, a brutal femicide took place in the city of Ibarra, north of the country in Imbabura province. The perpetrator was a Venezuelan. In response, Ecuadorian President Lenin Moreno implemented new security measures against Venezuelan migrants. His decision has been criticized by a number of feminist organizations, Venezuelans living in Ecuador, and Ecuadorians who say the measures have contributed to xenophobia.
I got trapped in the middle of the confrontation. I need to leave this country with my daughter. I don't feel safe here. I'm not happy. I can't sleep. But there is nothing I can do except for saying thank you and move on.
Meanwhile, the message of campaigns against xenophobia and violence against women is still one of peace. The corner where Diana, the victim of femicide, was killed is now decorated with flowers and banners in honor of her memory.
The
nationality of a criminal doesn't matter. We are not responsible for the action of the murderer. There are criminals from Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador. That is not the point. What happened in Ibarra was really sad. Families with kids were attacked, and there are good and bad people everywhere.
The government of Ecuador has confirmed that the new security measures are in progress. Despite the backlash, Venezuelans are also leaving Otavalo, another city of Imbabura province where xenophobia and discrimination has been reported.
This is something new for us. I wanted to go to Peru, but it was hard to get further from Venezuela, so I decided to stay in Otavalo and keep fighting for my future.
One of the solutions the Bolivarian government of Venezuela has offered in response to xenophobia against Venezuelans abroad is the Return to Homeland Plan. The plan assists suffering Venezuelans to return to their home with the help of the Venezuelan government. From Ecuador, more than 2,000 citizens have been repatriated under the plan. Denise Herrera, Telesur, Ecuador.
Members of the latest group of Central American migrants hoping to reach the United States have arrived in Mexico City. Over 1,000 migrants from Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua are being temporarily housed in a sports complex. The shelter provides food, medical attention, and clothing. The migrants are expected to rest a few days before continuing their journey. Moving on, in Guatemala, landless campesinos are in a legal battle to recover the San Francisco Miramar farm of almost 50,000 square meters. More in this report.
These campesinos of Quetzaltenango say that they are victims of harassment and oppression. Their pleas come amid a legal dispute on the San Francisco Miramar farm, which they have occupied for 7 months.
Elements of a private security company has intimidated us here on the road, showing us their weapons and taking photographs.
Campesinos continue to allege that the landlord, Carlos Torreviarte, who claims to be the owner of the farm, uses rough elements of the police force to harass them. The history of this farm dates back to 1873 and 1885, when the president, Justo Rufino Barrios, gave land to the Germans. The land was then reclaimed during the Revolution of October 1944, according to an advisor to the campesinos.
Since 1954, when the revolution led by Castillo Armas occurred, the army took control of the land. But it turns out that in 1967, the Torreviarte family claimed ownership of the land.
Carlos Torreviarte has said that the campesinos are victims of a criminal network.
They are using land as an excuse to commit crimes and scams.
In the case of the San Francisco Miramar farm, which covers almost 50,000 square meters, the Constitutional Court could determine its rightful ownership.
A Brazilian mother has become famous due to her narration of football games to her differently abled son. Silvia Greco and her 12-year-old son gained recognition when the people of Sao Paulo saw her on TV. Greco narrates the game to her son, who is blind and autistic. Efforts are being made to make the game more accessible to differently abled people, although there's still a way to go.
I describe details. This player is wearing short sleeves, the color of their football boots, hair color. It was a foul. Besides, by narrating the match I give a wider description so that he can also sense the scene. But my narration is very emotional. I'm not professional. Everything I see and feel, I tell him, even when I need to curse the referee.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
The life is full of moments. Moments of fight. Moments of hope. Moments that transcend. Moments that you can live in. Telesur documentaries. Sundays. Only on Telesur.
Welcome back. The Al Horeya Park in the heart of Egypt is a homage to the Latin American leaders who fought for independence. Representatives from different Arab organizations pay tribute to José Martí.
In Arabic, Al Horeya means freedom. It pays tribute to the ideals of emancipation held by Latin American leaders. From Mexican independence leader Miguel Hidalgo to the leader of the Bolivarian Revolution, Hugo Chavez.
This park is very important because it reflects the close relationship between Latin American countries and Egypt. And not only with Latin America, we also have statues of people from other parts of the world, like Afghanistan, Russia, as well as others.
Diplomats, representatives from different Arab organizations, and Egyptian figureheads paid a special tribute to the Cuban intellectual and journalist José Martí, who promoted the idea of Latin American unity.
He is a universal icon. He was in exile for many years in different countries and served as consul in different Latin American countries. In 1881, when he realized France and the U.S. wanted to take the Suez Canal, he wrote a diary entry about colonial oppression and how it wanted to make a profit from a poor country, as Egypt was at the time.
From Egypt's heart, the Latin American corridor reflects the relationship that Latin America has had with Africa and the Middle East.
It is evidence of the friendship between Egypt and the countries of Latin America, and having our independence leaders in a specific location, in a place far away from Latin America, but sentimentally very close, is for us a very important contribution to the relationship between Egypt and Latin America.
The participants agree on the need to recover the idea of unity proposed by these independence leaders, especially in these difficult moments for Latin America and the Caribbean region.
On Monday, a new parliament in the Democratic Republic of Congo has been inaugurated. It held its opening session Monday after a bitterly fought election that ushered in a new opposition president, Felix Tshisekedi. However, the National Assembly is still dominated by supporters of former leader Joseph Kabila, who had ruled the country since 2001.
If the effects of this change stop at the fact that the old president has left and the new one has come, or will its effects will extend beyond that? I am one of those who think its effects will extend beyond that.
2 white South African farmers have been found guilty of murdering a 16-year-old black teenager in Cologne. A judge convicted the 2 men of killing the boy last year. The men claimed they caught the boy taking a plant from a farm in the area. They will be sentenced on Thursday. 4 of the 5 men accused of carrying out al-Shabaab's deadliest attack in Kenya in 2015 remain in custody, as one has been acquitted by the court. 148 people were killed in April 2015 when heavily armed attackers stormed Garissa University and began firing indiscriminately. On Tuesday, the court is expected to decide on the remaining 4 suspects. Cameroon's main opposition leader, Maurice Kamto, has been arrested. Even though the government has yet to comment on the development, it is largely believed the arrest is linked to his participation in anti-government protests over the weekend. According to his lawyer, Kamto has been taken to an unknown destination. Protesters gathered outside Britain's Houses of Parliament to the news that the Prime Minister is to renegotiate the Brexit deal with the EU. With exactly 2 months to go until Britain is scheduled to leave the European Union on March 29th, Theresa May is going to attempt to amend the agreements she negotiated. European officials have said it will not be possible.
I think she's just wasting her time because she's been told